There's a buzz and feel in the air at the Suzuka circuit that has not been around since, well, ever, I guess. Maybe the 1990 race, where Guri Suzuki driving a Lambo-powered Lolo secured the first podium ever for a Japanese driver, or even 2012, when hometown hero and crowd favorite Kamui Kobayashi picked up his vase in the Sauber. The latest iteration of the Japanese Grand Prix is just around the corner, and the hero of the hour, Yuki Tsunoda, has just secured a berth in the second Red Bull seat, thus now is in with as good a chance as ever at securing top results now that he's in a top team. It was a seat that everybody believed was rightly his from the start, but now that he's actually in it, after working so hard for it, whilst racing in the Honda Tribute livery and at his home track no less, this is a dream come true and the beginning of something special. Well, this is where I gotta dim the lights and implement a freeze frame, because it's cool to be overdramatic, I guess. To call this the beginning of something special is being majorly optimistic. Like, majorly. Everything that has preceded this moment has been an orgy of mismanagement from the boneheads spearheading the Red Bull driver management system. When trying to come up with a metaphor for this video, I was kinda lost. I mean, how else can you summarize this complete mess of an outfit at this time? Eventually, however, I did find it whilst watching the 2016 film Deepwater Horizon. Yes, I promise this goes somewhere. More specifically, I found it in this scene where the old greedy company man attempts to justify every cut corner made by the big corporation that he represents. He does care about the profit that this rig generates for sure, but he doesn't really give a crap about the boots on the ground who operate said rig. You know, the boots on the ground whose lives are in jeopardy. The detachment from reality is stark and it is jarring. That is, until one of those boots on the ground actually pushes back, saying that those execs had chosen to drill in this spot, and that instead of taking the L and moving on, they kept on in vain, trying shit that they knew full well wasn't gonna work, all the while ignoring the rig literally falling apart all around them and pushing aside the concerns of those actually working to get things done and whose lives are in constant jeopardy. It's a great scene, but what the hell does any of this have to do with the current situation? How exactly am I gonna tie in John Malkovich and Donnie Wahlberg's brother into a video about a Red Bull racing driver? Well, we're all here now. Let's ride. 2018, Daniel Ricciardo leaves the Red Bull team at season's end to greener pastures at Renault, and that was true in both senses of the word. In turn, his place would be taken over by Pierre Gasly for the season 2019. He lasted for 12 races before his struggles to get to grips with the car forced Red Bull to take a knee-jerk reaction and replaced him with Alexander Albon, who at that point was barely halfway into his Formula 1 debut season. Despite glimpses of promise in the latter half of the year, 2020 turned out to be especially rancid for him, and with Sergio Perez being the hottest free agent around after his exile from Team Stroll, they made the logical choice in hiring him for 2021. It looked pretty good for a short little while, but once Red Bull lost its advantage, the pace deficit between he and Max Verstappen was becoming too much, and after much dallying around with contract negotiations and fortune telling or whatever the hell method Red Bull do nowadays to carry out their tactics, it was decided to send Checo to the glue factory and replace him for 2025 with Liam Lawson, a decision which didn't exactly draw a lot of praise, with many saying that that seat should have been handed to Yuki Tsunoda instead. Red Bull had their reasons for taking on Liam instead, but then it all blew up in their faces within the first couple of rounds. An emergency meeting was called, and next thing you know, Yuki Tsunoda is a Red Bull driver after all. Yes, I get it. Y'all know this part, but I do want to bring up something else that we all seem to have forgotten in the grand scheme of things. 2016, Daniel Kvyat is in his second year at the main Red Bull team, and so far he's been pretty decent, I would say, securing a podium in the third round of the championship in Shanghai, although his, shall we say, aggressive driving style earned him the moniker of the Torpedo, as coined first by Sebastian Vettel. And in the next round in Sochi, Danny took that a little bit too personally.
What the fuck?
Following this diabolical act of terrorism, it was announced that Kvyat will be sent back down to Toro Rosso for the next round in Spain, with the team stating that Danny will be able to continue his development at Toro Rosso in a team that he is familiar with, giving him the chance to regain his form and show his potential. And it's a rhetoric that seems to have echoed on all over the years whenever the team seems to make calls like this. And did this happen with Liam Lawson? Oh, you bet your ass it did. This ever-revolving door of an F1 seat that chews up and spits out drivers with absolutely no mercy. And this is what Yuki Tsunoda is walking into, year after year after year. Red Bull have attempted to search for an answer after Ricciardo, and they just haven't found it. So what exactly makes Yuki so different? And why the rash call to put him in the seat on a whim and a prayer? Well, on that second one, it's not that much of a whim and a prayer. If anything, this should have been plan A all along. Yuki has been deserving of that seat for years now. His results over the last couple of years in that Minardi have been great, and the first two races of this year were particularly strong performance-wise, at least compared to what whatever the hell was going on in that Red Bull camp. When Red Bull dumped Checo last year and a seat became available, Yuki was unanimously considered to be the better option based on experience and results. Even if some, such as my biased patriotic ass, considered Liam to have a higher ceiling than his, Yuki was always going to be more prepared for this moment. He has earned it, and now he's got a chance to prove that he deserves it. He was thrown into the Red Bull simulator days after Shanghai, and he relayed that he did not find the car to be particularly difficult to drive, at least in the simulator, which kind of does directly contradict what even Max has been saying about the car, which means that either the Red Bull has improved marketably ahead of Suzuka, the simulator is a liar, or Yuki possesses the Midas touch that has only ever been bestowed upon Ayrton Senna and whatever it is that stops J-Lo from aging. But a simulator can only tell you so much. It can't give you that seat of the pants feel that can tell you when a car is wanting to kill you. So we're only truly gonna know how Yuki responds to that car this weekend in Japan. And we'd better hope that he does feel comfortable in that car, because Suzuka is just not a track where you can lack confidence. You have to be able to commit to extract the lap time out of that place, or just to keep the damn thing out of the wall. So if you go in doubting the car's behavior, you're cooked. Of course, Yuki's ability behind the wheel isn't the only thing going for him. His technical feedback at VCarb, as well as testimonials from people who worked there, ultimately helped get this deal across the line. That, along with an injection of investment from Honda to the tune of 20 million, or so they say. Part of the reason that he's been brought in is to help develop the Red Bull, to build it into a viable title contender later in the year, and to help Max win a 5th title, as well as the Constructors title. He methodically works through a weekend to develop a setup like most drivers do, and has no intention of just parroting whatever Max does setup-wise, instead going his own way to find out what works for him, and finding that balance between absolute car speed and comfort behind the wheel. It's a good mentality to have, especially if he wants to progress within the team itself, taking the initiative, refusing to be a dungeon bitch. It also works if they're to harness the attitude of the RB21. Max can handle the thing just fine, barely, but not every driver can do that, because not every driver has the same style or set of skills. But if Yuki can get the RB21 to bend to his will his way, perhaps that could help Red Bull take the car further in terms of development, or maybe that would work the other way round. Either way, the Constructors' Championship is at stake here, and it's not just about winning it, because where they finish in the pecking order determines exactly how many millions that team is gonna receive. But perhaps more importantly, with the rumors of Max leaving the team for Mercedes or Aston Martin growing by the day, Red Bull can ill afford having the team's other driver to be flailing around like an action park victim come the season's end. With them having burned through so many junior drivers, they're somehow running out of options again after having been spoiled for choice just months ago. And the reason it's got to that point has been severe mismanagement from guess who? Yuki needs to be the guy to provide some stability to that seat for the first time in years. The power struggle at play within Red Bull to determine which driver gets the nod is tearing them down. You've got Horner saying that Lawson and Tsunoda aren't that much good. You've got Marco clamoring for Yuki to get a chance. The shareholders just want Max to remain at the team. And you've got dumbass YouTubers like me who reckon that this team should be compromised of Franco Colapinto and the ghost of Tazio Nuvolari. Thing is, we can speculate because we don't have any skin in the game. Those with skin in the game, however, were quick to admonish Red Bull with their treatment of Lawson. Not to say that Liam didn't suck donkey ass with his performances, because he was bad, but it did feel like he was being railroaded. And for what? To end up with a driver lineup you should have had in the first place, albeit now with one of your other drivers in dire straits when you could have developed them instead of throwing them into the deep end based on a chance? With Red Bull here, there is so much on the line, and they keep on trying to shoot themselves in the ass. And if Yuki does not work out, what avenue exactly can Red Bull take? They're already in disagreement now, and it's only going to get worse if this happens. And I genuinely hope that one or two bad performances don't make F1 fans forget what Yuki has achieved in the past and about his abilities behind the wheel, because that second Red Bull seat seems to erase our memories, and all the achievements of a driver's past go to die as we look at these guys as the bastard corpse reanimation of Yuji Ide. Despite all the pressure surrounding that poison chalice of a seat, Yuki is welcoming it with open arms, and that's great, because it will be pushed to its limit. We've seen that time and again at this outfit, and they've got no qualms about finding scapegoats when things don't go their way. And not just in Red Bull, it applies across their whole program. Let us also not forget how close Marco was to replacing him within the first 6 months of his F1 career career, there was a lot of noise going around that weekend in Zandvoort. For you see, that's the mentality really of this outfit and its driver development team. A normal person would say give them time, but Dr. Helmut Marko is not normal. It reminds me again of that scene in Deepwater Horizon. Yeah, see? Told you I would tie this up. And about how Wahlberg fired back at Malkovich's character and the methods of the hierarchy and how it is never the right way to resolve the issues at hand. I'm not sure they really want to know what's wrong. They don't want to face the possibility that maybe they fucked up, and instead, they've been blindly firing in the dark, hoping that something works. But that's just not how things work. That is not how you resolve the issues at hand. Or as Wahlberg's character put it, hope ain't a tactic. That's what Red Bull has been riding on for years. But in this case, this has to work. Maybe it'll work out like it did in 2016 when they demoted Kvyat. It was harsh on Danny, but what we got out of it was the 4-time reigning world champion in Max Verstappen, and an instant win in his first race with the team. Or it could totally backfire on them. What do I think will happen here with Yuki? Honestly, I'm bored of predicting this stuff. I'm just so jaded with this Red Bull malarkey. But I think he'll do good. He will be the goods. Because if he can't do it, who can at this point? For the sake of keeping a team competitive and the future of a good driver on the grid, it's kind of imperative that Yuki Tsunoda must not fail. Too much? Well, it's called to be overdramatic, I suppose.